Well, hello, everybody. This is Paris Prokopis. Welcome to the Paris Prokopis Show, improvised Friday night edition. And I want you to welcome a special guest to the show. Yes, we've got Bernie Sanders. Welcome, Bernie Sanders, to the show. Gotta love Bernie. All right. Yay. All right. This is a random Friday night. Ed Delgado. Yes, you're the first poster of the night. Um, so aren't you glad Bernie joined me tonight? Almost. And we got Tracy on there. And Hilario's on there. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we're having some fun tonight. I think, I don't know, or either that or you guys have absolutely no social life, just like me. And that's the way it is. Although I'm showing a few more people than just you three. So where's everybody else? Chime in, make a comment. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're watching. And as always, please make sure you friend me or you follow me on, yes, I dare say follow me on on Twitter. And follow me at Paris Prokopis on Twitter. I'm on, where else am I on? I was on Parler until it got taken off the air, and I'm on MeWe, and I'm on CloudHub, and I'm on Gab, although I'm kind of not on Gab. I have my profile on there, but I heard some things about that, so I'm just kind of watching and seeing what's getting on there. And I'm also at Paris Prokopis on any of those social media platforms. Also, you can look me up. Just look up Paris Prokopis on YouTube. You get to my YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And there we go. Yeah, Noel Delgado. Sorry, you won't find me on Grindr. I hate to disappoint you. I tell you, it's been an interesting week to say the least. I was on a couple days ago, and there's so much more going on. But the biggest thing is, what can you say about your presidency when more people pay attention to your former opponent in the Democrat primary than they do to the actual presidency? You have got Bernie Sanders everywhere, just everywhere. Excuse me. Oh, COVID. Sorry, I'm dead. Okay. So, yeah, I can fall through space. I'm falling. Gotta love the beauty of green screen. Plenty of fish. All right, Robin. Robin knows about plenty of fish. Okay, I will upload my videos. And no co-host. Yeah, I don't have a co-host. Well, Jackie keeps standing me up. No, she's up north, but I'm going to have her on the show. Let's see. Who shall I extend a wonderful invitation to for the moment? There are always possibilities. Ooh, Paula's watching the show. Paula, you want to come on the show? I'm sure you have a lot to say. And everything. Sorry, I've got nonsense right now, but I will get to some things right away. I'm doing this completely off the cuff. I'm not prepared at all. I'm getting some articles up here. One of the things, the latest Rasmussen poll has Donald Trump at basically an all-time all-time high. It's just been, I'm telling you, this doesn't make sense for him to lose. Just like in 2012, it didn't make sense for Barack Obama to win, even though his polling numbers were actually had him losing to Mitt Romney back in the day. So it's just perplexing. All of this is perplexing. I don't know. I still, it just feels surreal, All of this just feels surreal. And we got Giorgio from down in Florida. Hey, George, it's like 3 degrees in Wisconsin. How are you liking the weather down there? And Robin, I haven't seen you in an age. I don't think you love me anymore. I know how it is. It's because I'm Greek. So let's see. But what do you guys want to talk about tonight? Like I said, this is completely completely on off the cuff, and I'm gonna bring my good friend El Delgado onto the show. Hello, Ed. How's it going? Oh no, I'm covered up by Bernie Sanders.
I'm on. Oh shit. Wasn't ready.
You mean my virgin ears? Hey,
I should have said poop. I'm sorry.
Shucks darn. There we
go. Shucks dagnabbit. Goodness. How you doing, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm telling you, because I haven't. I mean, it's been a couple of nights, and I'm just kind of. All this just seems so surreal to me.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, something's not sitting right, and I just don't know what it is. I mean, I've lost elections before. Barack Obama was there. Okay, I'm going to be the loyal opposition. We'll get him next time. Something's different this time.
Because you smell something in the air, don't you? And it feels different. It's the smell of stale beef and Gouda. It's the smell of, can I say the F word? The FRAU. I'm not going to say the last letter because I don't want anyone to get banned. I'm just saying.
You mean election irregularities because people didn't have enough fiber. There.
Fiber is important in our diets, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really funky, and it's. I think what's even funkier is the pace at which Biden's looking to try to undo what Trump did during his presidency, and recap what he's done in the last 2.5 days. It's amazing. I mean, like really, it's amazing,
and it's all through executive order, and. And Donald Trump worked fast, but he didn't work this fast.
No.
We're back in the Paris Accord, but Paris is always a good idea. But I say that out on my own accord. But okay, so there's the Paris Accord. There's okay, we're in football season, so I'm going to switch my background here. I don't know. There's also, oh God, what else did he do? Oh. He did it. He killed the most jobs in the first day of a presidency ever. And they say officially it's 10,000 jobs, but this affects over 40,000 jobs.
Mm-hmm. And let me just I want to bring up something that I was listening to another podcast earlier this morning. And
how dare you? Okay.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm a serial podcast hopper. But there was a young lady on there. And she said that, and she's not a Trump fan at all. She voted for Bernie. Hi, Robin. What's going on? She voted for Bernie because she didn't like Trump. She liked Orange Man. Or she was full of the whole Orange Man bad. She didn't like how he talked. Blah blah blah. All right, we get it. So she ended up voting for Biden. Her response to the host of the show was, well, for the past 4 years, we were just told we had to deal with it. Well, let me stop right there because my whole thing was like, wow, if that's how you guys deal with it, that's a hell of a precedent to set. So yeah. She then goes to continue. She's like, well, now it's your turn to deal with it. So I just simply responded. I'm like, wow, day one, you killed well over 10,000 jobs there by killing off the Keystone Pipeline. I'm sure those people are very happy to go home to their families and tell them to be happy and just deal with it.
Even even Canada's premier he's like, I mean, he's very far left. Even he's
Mhm.
like, hey, hold on a minute, because this benefits them as well.
Yeah.
Some people are making some stupid argument about Indian land and stuff like that. And I love, I'm a culture guy. I earlier today I was going through my old YouTube videos on my one of my old YouTube channels, and there's a
Sure.
video that was recorded. I was a performer in a Bulgarian dance group. Everybody knows I was a Greek dancer for like 30 years, from when I was
Mhm.
12 until a couple of years ago. But there was also a stint I was invited to perform with the Bulgarian dancers here in Milwaukee, and I put this up. So I know culture. I love culture and stuff like that. But I think it's time. I don't know. Maybe this is controversial, but I think it's time we start renegotiating some of the lands in situations there.
Well, what was the objections they had? It was, it centered around ancient and ancestral burial grounds.
Mhm.
All right, cool. I get it. I mean, the last thing any of us wants is a poltergeist situation. But
move the headstones and not the bodies. Yeah,
right, exactly. But the thing is that when they were asked the question, okay, what part of the land? All of it. Okay, now that's all right. This is suspect. I mean, to say all of it, nah, you don't get that. Because this is going to benefit you just as much as it'll benefit anybody else.
Yeah, and it's sad. I mean, they're getting the benefits of being in the United States, getting all these benefits and stuff like that. At some point, we've got to figure some things out. And quite honestly, this is not only just jobs, but it gives us energy, independence, and stuff like that. So already, Joe Biden, another thing that he did was issue a moratorium on being able to lease equipment for oil drilling and stuff like that.
Right.
On federal land. This is all happening. It's like, why do they want to be so counterproductive? And of course, the most important thing that the Senate's going to be dealing with, impeachment of the president who's not even in office anymore. The whole point of impeachment is to remove a president from office.
Right. Well, it's interesting because they're going to push this forward. And what fascinates me about it is that Alan Dershowitz had said that this was unconstitutional. You can't do this. I mean, the guy's out of office, bottom line. At the same time, though, a precedent does get set somewhere. It's never been done before. Well, a lot of things have never been done before, but yet there we are. Take Marbury medicine. Exactly. And we might not be good for,
It's a family show. It's a family show.
Right.
Isn't that right, Dawn? Anyway.
But, they're pushing this simply because they don't want Trump to run again. And I'm of the position that, okay, fine. Let them do whatever they're going to do. They're going to push the envelope like they always do. And it should bite them in the ass, but Trump should be a kingmaker.
Mm-hmm. But back up a second. You said, so Trump can't run again. So they're basically telling, they're telling people you can't vote for Trump.
Yep.
Even though constitutionally, he can run for president. And actually, constitutionally, even if he were convicted in the Senate, there's nothing saying one can't run for office again. The Constitution doesn't say what happens after impeachment. They're just removed from office.
Right.
I mean, after the trial and removal from office, though it's never been done. How can you remove someone from office if they're not in office?
Well, they're trying to push this under the guise of the 14th Amendment, and that somehow he incited an insurrection. And I find that
even if he did, even if he said, "Let's go get him,"
right.
Once again, what remedy is there? They can't remove him from office.
Right. Well, the other thing that kind of perplexes me is like insurrection. In order for there to be an insurrection, wouldn't your guy have had to have been in power first?
Oh, no. But it wasn't about insurrection. No, this is about Chuck Schumer's erection.
Viagra stock just went up.
When I
literally and figuratively.
Now you heard you heard it, didn't you? When he was talking, it was clearly he screwed up. But man, I'm telling you, I cracked up something fierce, and it's just. But it's also a Freudian slip because we know they're in the pocket of the Chinese government, and we all know that the Chinese government doesn't have elections; they have erections. So anyway, that was bad. But it's just, it's just. But seriously, it is. They can't even get their own words straight because Schumer is so giddy. Mm-hmm. Have you seen? I mean, when he finally gave his official speech as the majority leader, he was like this young teenager who just got laid for the first time. He just had this afterglow on his face. It makes me afraid of what's coming if they're smiling that much.
Well, there's a lot of conspiracies. There's a lot of speculation as to what's going to happen going forward. And the problem is, I think for them is that they're drunk with power. And look at what they're pushing so far. And we've talked about this before, truth and reconciliation. They're looking at things like that. You've got individuals that are pushing this idea that if you somehow supported Trump, you should, you need to be dealt with. And we need to unbrainwash 74 million plus people. And it's like, okay, that's not a cult. Like that makes no sense. Oh, Hilario's awesome.
Hilario
Right.
wins the internet. I mean, we got to dedicate this show to Chuck Schumer's Woody. Wow. Oh, man. This show's going downhill quickly.
Would that be Trump Agra? I don't know. Wow.
I guess he's up and coming. Wow, how do we do that at the same time?
That was a hard joke. I mean, yeah. Oh, wow, that got dark real quick. Real quick.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you got to feel for the guy. I mean, but seriously, I just don't know. Like we're talking about. So they're giddy with power. They've got this. Ooh, goody, we're in charge now. But it's more than that.
Oh, yeah.
There's more than that. There's something. I hate to use the cliche, something rotten in Denmark, because of course, we know that Bernie Sanders is always talking about Denmark and good. We allow socialism like they have in Denmark. You realize that Denmark got rid of socialism a long time ago. They're actually very capitalist. They have some socialist things, but not like the way they used to. They tried it and it failed, so they went back to capitalism. But I don't know. I don't know what it is, and it's. There obviously you had, the rumor mills going crazy with everything. Oh, this isn't really, the military is really in charge and blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah.
Trump's not really a Mar-a-Lago yet. He was out there golfing, it's wishful thinking, but, I'll believe it when I see it. I'm not going to hold my breath with all this Q stuff. And then Lin Wood finally resurfaced and now he's like preaching. It's like, it's all about God. It's on God's time, not on our time. It's like, okay, I don't think God's going to say, well, yeah, we're going to make sure America has a Republican president.
Right.
It doesn't work that way, dude. So regardless, but there's still something. This isn't like something that's normal. It's like we're in for something that it's going to catch us off guard. Maybe a good thing. Maybe a bad thing, but there's something brewing.
If it's a good thing, and I think a lot of us would like to think that something good is coming down the pipe. That'd be wonderful. The problem with sitting in the train tunnel and looking at the light as it's coming, You're thinking, oh, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, when the reality is that it's probably going to be an oncoming train. And you can certainly speculate a lot of things. And it's interesting because a lot of things that were conspiracy years ago are actually coming to fruition today. Things like microchips and RFID and tracking, things like that. It's amazing how much of that is we deal with currently, and a lot of us deal with willingly, acceptingly, and eagerly. And one of the fears that I have is that when you take a look at the economic shutdowns that have happened, who benefits the most from an economic shutdown of America? China. Who benefits most when Biden decides to ship jobs overseas? China, India. And when you take a look at it on a macro scale, all you need to do is take a look at the World Economic Forum and their push for social justice, reform, capitalism with their so-called Great Reset. You throw words like Great Reset out, it does sound very conspiratorial until you realize this is actually a quasi-governmental body that wants to implement this on a planetary level. I mean, this is scalability, at which something we've never seen before.
Well, and I've seen something. I mean, some interesting things. You realize, the Republicans are technically out of power for the moment.
Correct.
There's really not, because all they have to do is get rid of the filibuster, and it's done. You get rid of the filibuster, and they've got to vote for everything. They could literally vote for everything with 50 votes in the Senate. As long as they keep their caucus together. The lady in purple is going to always do that. And of course, you got something. Oh my God, this is Revelations. And they said something. It's the beginning of end times because somebody wore purple. But somebody actually made the comment where, I think they know this. They know their stuff. And there is stuff in Revelations talking about purple. There was just like Nostradamus, and the Antichrist would be a man with a blue turban or something like that in Nostradamus teaching or whatever. I think they know this, and they do it on purpose just to stick a dagger in religion, because that's what they do. They like to do it. I just contend it won't be that obvious if whatever's true, whatever's not. But I put this article up here. Biden sworn in as president, and he calls on Americans to end this uncivil war of political division. I mean, I love the idea. I'm all for it. But guess what? You guys freaking started it. They started it.
Well, you gotta, if you want to end a so-called uncivil civil war, whatever you want to call it, both sides have to acquiesce something.
Yeah, meet us halfway.
Right. It can't be you need to do what we tell you, otherwise STFU.
Right. Well, like David King likes to say, he always says, meet me in the middle and have a mind to work. Forget this. Just, we got work to do. Let's get some work done. Why does everything have to be 50 frickin' 50? Why can't they meet us on some things? They expect us to come over and meet them, but they never come meet us. All the time when Paul Ryan was in charge of the House of Representatives during Obama, basically give Obama everything he wanted. He never made Obama come to us.
Right. Well, and I've heard this from several people. It's interesting where people were like, well, okay, we want Obamacare. Fine. We'll give you Obamacare. But in return, everybody has to own a gun. Second Amendment mandatory in every single household. End of story. That's, we're not budging on that. The right doesn't do that. It never has. The right pretty much, and by the right, I talk about establishment GOP Republicans. They're a speed bump on the road for the left to progress to their agenda. And I think that's why a lot of people are very disenchanted with the Republican Party, and they have been for quite some time. What do you think about this potential for a third party? We're gonna get some people upset.
I know. Well, there's fighting words.
I know.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Third party. Now, I like the idea of a third party. I always have, because I just like to stir to the pot. Ross Perot ran for president. I still contend that if he hadn't have withdrawn from the race and then re-entered, it would have been a much more dynamic situation. I think he would have affected 270, and therefore the Congress would have gotten the vote. But nonetheless, I think in concept, the idea of a third party is important. I mean, frankly, that's how the Republican Party started, for crying out loud. It was a third party. Sadly, so the Democrats were like that too. You know, we had the Bull Moose Party. We had all these, the Anti-Masonic Party. Remember that? That was like early 1900s. But it, okay. Over the past few years, I've been like, I like the idea of a third party, but right now, this is not the time. And it's incredibly difficult to organize and to get people into it, to get people to follow it, creating a leadership structure of sorts and organizing it.
Right.
In my opinion. But, and I'm going to go long-winded here a minute, but it is my show. So there, but it is.
Preach on, brother. Preach on.
Preach on. Can I get an amen? Let me consult the Book of Parties, chapter 1, verse 7. All right. But we are, you know, and I've always said that, and it's in 2016, the Libertarians almost costed Trump the election in 2016. The Libertarians did cost Scott Walker the election in 2018. There were well more than enough Libertarian votes, you know, because they tend to be conservative on some issues, but of course, you know, they want perfection, you know, because they're principled. You know, you'll be principled all the way to the breadline, in my opinion. But they're usually about 5%. They're kind of fringe, although I agree with many libertarian principles.
Certainly.
I think we should explore the idea of legalizing certain drugs, but needs to be certain responsibility tied to it. You know, there's got to be, you know, it's like, yeah, people have a privilege to drive, but it's also got to be tempered with common sense. You can't drink and drive, but you can still drink, but you can't, you know, that kind of thing. Punishment should fit.
We don't want to spill drinks. That's very important.
Exactly. But fast forward to 2020. President Trump, at the very least, got 74 million votes. He increased his voter bias by at least 12 million voters. This not too shabby.
Right.
Okay. The most votes of any incumbent president in history, even more than Barack Obama and more than Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton arguably was a lot more popular than Barack or Trump. He really was. He was more popular. He was 52, 53% type of president. So, you know, same thing with Reagan. Reagan was very popular too, and he got those landslide victories and whatever. In the past, there was no leader. Ross Perot, you could say, was a leader, but he was really disorganized. He never had a taste of it. Donald Trump is a different kind of leader.
Yes.
Donald Trump isn't only a leader, but he's also a movement. He's the thing that Ross Perot did not have. He did not have the movement.
Right.
He was just this billionaire who had funny ears and he talked funny, but seemed to make a lot of sense when he talked.
Right.
You know, remember the giant sucking sound? But that's where we're at. I think if there is a time for a third party, we're there.
Yeah.
And that third party needs to be spearheaded by the Trump movement, whatever it is. But on the flip side, we can also use that as leverage. Okay, Republican Party. If you follow the principles that President Trump started, he was a Band-Aid. He got things into a position where we can move forward. He proved the populism works. He proved that if you actually work, you can get something done.
Right.
And lost you for a second. And then he also prevented Hillary Clinton from being president ever. I love that. But
Thank God.
There's always a good thing. There's still a silver lining. We've got the court system. So he proved this. If the Republican Party leadership embraces what President Trump has started and continues it and builds upon it. We talked about this with Orlando the other night and stuff like that.
Mhm.
If we build upon what was started, then there's no need for the third party. But we
Sure.
hold the power. Because if we start seeing Robin Voss succeeding in his lack of leadership,
Mm-hmm.
they would say, okay, Robin, 22 comes on. Since we're effectively getting Democrat light, we might as well just have Democrats.
Right.
We're going to run a bunch of third parties in every single assembly race in the state that'll run on the Trump platform, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we don't win a single, cut out again. Maybe Robin's watching. No, but even if we don't win a single seat, even if it won't, we'll actually kick their asses out of power.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what have we got to lose at this point? We've got nothing to lose because we have nobody fighting for us except for one man who was fighting for us and a handful of senators. Ted Cruz. I was not a huge Cruz fan. I am now. He was steadfast in his leadership all throughout this.
Yep.
And stuff like that. Even Rand Paul. He hated Donald Trump in
Certainly.
16. You know, they've stood up, and once again, America First works and stuff. I that's where I think. Okay, now you go. I went long. Sorry.
No, by all means. I mean, dear God, I don't want to capitalize. This is your show, man. I'm just here to hang out, eat popcorn, and drink bourbon.
I need to redistribute the minutes. We're going socialist. So what I said, I need to redistribute the minutes. We're going socialist, so I might as well share some of them with you.
Hey, reclaiming my time.
The gentleman is not recognized. Sometimes, have you ever watched Italian Parliament?
No.
Every once in a while, I keep wishing that like Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer would suddenly go to blows and start beating the crap out of each other, jumping over the podium.
I kind of like watching like British Parliament occasionally because like they just like get all crazy. They're like, I'm like, damn, settle down. You're gonna knock down that old building or something. It's kind of crazy. So here's where I'm at with a third party, and I feel conflicted because on the one hand, I see that you have these weak, ineffective, feckless, sad, pathetic establishment Republicans. And the problem I have with them is that they want to go back to the old ways of doing things. Oh, we have to be above the fray. We can't get dirty. We got to be, civil. We got to do this. Again, I always go back to the old line. The only fair fight's the one that you win. Now, I'm not telling you to kick somebody, in the jewels. What I am telling you is that if they're going to come at you with a brick, then maybe you need to have a bat with you. I love offending people. That's awesome.
George,
but
we offended you. Okay.
Sorry, George. My bad. But if we go back to that, then all we become is simply the roadblock, the speed bump for the Republicans or for the Democrats. So I'm conflicted because the Republican Party, the GOP, has the infrastructure. They have the money-making apparatus and everything else like that. But to the flip side of that, though, you have 74 million people that were adamant Trump supporters. Now, granted, there's probably a sizable minority of people that are straight up GOP up and down all day long. But I think the vast majority of those people, they would gravitate to a third party. We'll call it a patriot party, as what I'm seeing floating around the internet. Mm-hmm. Although the one thing I would caution is that let's not brand it with anything Trump. Not that he's toxic, but this is not about a man. This is a movement. And what President Trump has done here is that he's illuminated what needed to be done. If you think about it, Trump is a prototype. We wanted him to be more than that, but the truth of the matter is he's a man. And as a man, he has shown us how to fight. And I think this wave of Republicans that got into the House of Representatives, they're going to be more refined. They're going to take the fight to you. They're not going to take crap from anybody, and they will pick and choose their battles a little wiser than what President Trump did. That's what we need going forward. And I do believe that if the Patriot Party were to be formed in 2022, it would be enough congressional seats that would flip to that party to make it a difference maker that could caucus with either the Democrats or the Republicans. Because if you think about it, what does the populace generally think of? Okay, you know what? Weed is generally okay. All right, fine. If you can get hammered, then you can get high on some weed. We're going to draw the line on cocaine, though. Foreign entanglements, starting new wars, going to Syria. Yeah, no, let's not do that. Cool. Right. Let's go there.
And we could actually siphon off with logic like that. We could actually siphon off some of the libertarians and stuff like that. The ones that are like, okay, libertarians are never going to win anything because they're so focused on drugs. It's like the Democrats are 99.9% abortion. They want to kill babies in the worst way. I mean, regardless of whether you're pro-life, pro-choice, they just really want to kill babies, but the libertarians, they just really want to smoke pot. It's like,
they just want to go to work and get high AF. That's all they want to do.
Yeah. But that takes away from all the other stuff that they believe in, a lot of things that I actually support. So anyway, so we might get some of that, but I'll get back. Like Darlene is talking about that. She thinks it's a bad idea. Agree they need to embrace Trump. I agree. In principle, generally, the idea of a third party is a bad idea because it gives the other side power. On the flip side, there's also a third party movement brewing on the left as well.
Yes.
Because remember, Biden's going to try to keep. I don't know if he's going to push everything. He's going to push a lot of things because he's not in control. There was a weird thing that happened today that really baffled me, but I'll get to that. But Biden is typically, he's left, but he's never been far left in the past. No. But he's not his old self, arguably. Kamala,
she's a believer.
She's a true believer, but I still don't think she's Elizabeth Warren AOC left. There's going to be things that they're not going to get, and they're going to be pissed about it.
I'm only going to disagree with I got to disagree with you. I got to disagree with you for a second. AOC is only a believer because she's a social media maven. That's it. Elizabeth Warren is a believer only because that's what she's always done. That's what she pushes. What scares me about Kamala Harris is that she's young enough where she could be effective for quite some time. That scares me.
Yeah, there might be some of that, and I don't know. And I guess I'm going to wait and see. As a senator, she would just pretty much go along, with the exception of what she did with Kavanaugh. But and I'm going to have to, Darlene, I love you, girl, but I'm having an issue. This is where we've been all this time. We can't vote for a third party because it's either Democrat or Republican. If we don't, it'll divide us and the Dems win. You know what? The Dems are winning because the Republicans have been ineffective. And the only way to get them the hell out of power is for them to lose. There is no other way at this point. We need to start beating these people in primaries. But we need to put a third party candidate up, and another person of the same exact ideals running as a Republican.
Yep.
And then if the establishment Republican wins, Robin Vos, if he wins, then you get the then you get the third party person. Because Robin Vos needs to lose his seat. I don't care. I'm not married to the leadership anymore. I refuse to do it. I'm not playing anymore. I played. I'm done.
Well, and I certainly appreciate where Darlene's coming from.
I do. I agree. I've been there. I shared her point of view up until last year.
But I think at the same point, though, what has current Republican leadership that is not going to give up the helm? What have they done to deserve our backing to keep them, even as a minority group. Now, if your ideas don't have the ability to withstand the scrutiny of one party or two or three or four, you don't deserve it. And yeah, will that mean that the Democrats keep power in 2022? Sure, so be it. But the fault in that lies squarely on the GOP. Why? Because you decided to play way too nice with the schoolyard bully and just accepted getting your backside kicked daily and having your lunch money taken. And I can't do that. Orlando, I know he sure as hell can't take that.
No, hello, Orlando. How's it going?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm good, my friends. How are you all this evening?
All right.
Blessed and phenomenal.
Well,
I'm just me.
I love hanging out.
Yeah, it's a
Interesting topics you
crazy
guys
world we're
talking
living
about.
in.
I mean, you have a lot of interesting subjects you guys are covering tonight, and some interesting perspectives. Third party, where does the movement go? How do you grow the base? How do you retain the base you have? And quite honestly, what is the base?
That's a good question.
Like, I didn't know, that traditionally Republicans didn't do well with blue collar white people. I thought that was always, besides the union person, but I'm learning in my 46 years of being a young man, that's not where Republicans have typically done well. They've lost the union vote, and I guess that's the question of who are these new voters and what is the new base? How does it look? How do we, create a environment that we all can coexist? Where is this new Black vote coming from? The new Latino vote coming from? And I can tell you, I'm not speaking as the chair of the North Branch, just as a member of the North Branch of Milwaukee, that we are looking to continue to grow at our MLK office. We're not going anywhere. And but we are looking at how do we expand that to some of the libertarian that you're talking about, Paris. Like, we need to get some of those guys out of West Allis. How do we talk about the union issues? We have a union affiliate with the state GOP. And I think Van Weingart is the chairman of it. My question is, what is that, that committee doing to go out and maybe talk to some of these union workers and see how do we get them, maybe not the union headships, but how do we get the rank and file?
Well, seriously, there's been, I guess we look back to a few years ago when the Republicans were doing, have been traditionally doing crappy in the Black community. Let's take that for an instant. Why? Because you had leaderships that basically had the attitude, well, they're all voting for Democrats, 99%. Why would we bother wasting our time with them? Well,
just give up.
My argument was always, okay, let's change it to 96%. That equates to thousands of votes. And then the next time, get it down to 90% and to 88% and stuff like that. Nobody, and so basically the Republicans gave up on them. And suddenly you get this guy who never ran for office before, whether you like him or not. He's this rich millionaire, but he knew how to speak to ordinary people in language that everybody can understand. Make America great. Whatever. Something simple. It was like, I think they equated it to a fourth grade level. It's a whole campaign in 2016.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because they said that, was it fourth grade, sixth grade, whatever. And they tried to belittle him like if he was talking like an idiot. But if you look at, some of the prominent magazines that you see in the grocery stores that like to talk about how great they are, they write at the eighth grade level. So it's like, you know what? Don't tell me that garbage, because the guy talks to you at the level that everybody understands, like everybody. But here's the thing that would be interesting, because I've heard people would give pushback on the idea of a third party, like, it would take some time, it would take years, not necessarily for a businessman. Businessman will be able to throw that up here in the series, in about 6 to 12 months, get the organizational structure. He knows how to market. 6 to 12 months, he can get the infrastructure, he can hire the right people. And the interesting thing that I think that he could do for this third party that the Republican Party continues to refuse to do, that the left does all the time, pay people. I hear people on the right always talking about, well, we got all these volunteers and everything else. That's great. And I'll tell you, me personally, I would love to go out there and do certain things, but I got bills to pay. I got child support to take care of. I got things to take care of. And volunteering after a 10 to 12 hour day, that's just not happening.
Let me tell you, part of the Democratic machine. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see a movie called The Trial of the Chicago 7. And it's on Netflix. It's really cool. It is about the Democratic nomination process. I think it was back in the 70s with Mayor Daley, and it had all the riots that broke out in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
But what you saw in this movie, and they depicted
scratch. Hold on. I got to correct you. It's mostly peaceful protests.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Okay.
And but it lays out.
I had to correct you.
Lays out the argument of the full umbrella of what makes the Democratic Party. You have the white liberal, you have the white progressive, you have the white Boy Scout leader, you have the white kind of sideline dude, and at the end you have the black nationalist, Bobby, the Black Struggle Movement. Made up the whole coalition of what is the Democratic or that machine. And to your point, Paris, that if you look at the groundwork right now in most cities, just the number of nonprofits or 501c2 3s or 4s who are advocate groups that are paid canvassers or paid door knockers all year round. I mean, they're like
they never stop.
What Ed said, like these guys are paid people that go out every day, knock on doors, do town halls. They are paid to be out here, and there's nothing wrong with that. If conservatives, and I'm challenging some of the construct of these terms, quite honestly, but if we want to be an active player, you need to have a full-time on the ground movement on issues, not so much a candidate, but issues every day. I've been preaching hard that, nonviolent felons for home protection to get their firearms back. And believe it or not, there are a ton of reentering population organizations that have been supportive. And quite honestly, some conservative groups say, yeah, that makes sense. I can deal with that.
Once you pay your debt to society, you should be able to get certain rights back. You have to earn them back, but you can get them back. I have no problem with that. And up to and including voting.
We do it now with voting, and I think that's the first step we do. But I will tell you, there are a lot of black males that would definitely support the idea of some of the positions that we take if we bring them back into the conversation and get them to vote. If they can't vote, they have tons of people they can talk to. I meet with a lot of nonprofits, my friend. I'm definitely constantly trying to grow the conversation. And I'm a pro-black agenda guy. Doesn't mean I'm an anti-nobody. That pro-black agenda also falls under the American agenda. So we have to understand that
we all have the same agenda.
Right. Be free to live peacefully and to prosper and to have a just system when you engage it.
Be safe.
And be safe. And I think, but we have to be able to talk those things. Now, the last time I was on your show and the three Amigos, I guess we can call ourselves three Amigos, was together. And Ed gave the example. When Ed said, well, Orlando, you gave me the example of big government. And I said, yeah, Ed, to black people, that just means the man is in your business. And we don't like that either.
You got the man, you got Big Brother. And you were saying the same thing, we're just saying it in different ways. And it's interesting because the third party could actually draw in people like that, the disaffected liberal, the politically participating urban minority from wherever. And it's interesting because if we galvanize those people, like I said, if we did that within the next year and a half, 2022 could be a game changer politically across the landscape, not just congressionally, but statewide. Like you said earlier, Paris, Ross Perot was just one man. He didn't have a lot of other people that say, you know what, I want to follow that philosophy. Small group, but not enough to change the platform. 2021, with the technology we have today, the organization that could happen. I'm just saying.
It's possible. And we've already got 75 million people strong, and that's the nationwide. And that includes people across demographics, across, I mean, whether you're Black, Hispanic, Asian, white, Greek, whatever, gay, straight, transgender. I mean, Trump really did reach across the aisle. And you know what? If the Democrats had gotten their collective heads out of their asses, they would have been able to accomplish some things that they've been trying to do. Trump's been the first Republican to talk about infrastructure ever. And, you know, all the Republicans do, well, we can't afford it. Well, we better start affording it. Otherwise, our power grid, if it goes down, imagine what we saw in Puerto Rico a few years ago on a national scale. So, yeah, we needed to do something. I wrote a paper on this when I was like 16 years old in high school. Don't say it, Orlando. Don't say it. But, you know, it was just a couple of years ago. But I wrote a paper on this. We've been talking about the power grid for all these, and the only people that ever talked about it is the Democrats. But the problem with the Democrats, and I think you both can attest to this, the problem with the Democrats, all they do is talk about the problem. They never, ever solve it. The Republicans can solve issues, but they never talk about the issue. So they never get around to doing that. It's like, I think
it's interesting you mentioned the power grid. And last I knew, and this has probably changed since I've picked up on it, there are 3 central points here in continental U.S. where if you knock it out, you knock out a huge quadrant of the U.S. And it's amazing because we have a power outage here stateside in the continental U.S. People bug out when power's out for 3 to 6 hours. I've lived overseas. I've lived in Hawaii. I've lived in Guam. I've lived in places where, you know, a storm would come through. You don't have power from anywhere from a month to 4, 5, 6 months later. And in those areas, which are predominantly Democrat, but the culture is very different, power goes out, the community gets together. Why? Because they understand that, you know what, we're all in this crap fest and we got to take care of one another. Cool. Poor people, rich people, everybody takes care of each other. Here, 3 to 6 hours, people are like bugging out. They're losing their damn mind. Could you imagine if the grid went out and it went out for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks? I don't even want to think about that.
Let's pray for the power grid right now because Joe Biden's in charge. Can you imagine him handling
at this point? Yeah,
a power down situation.
Well, brother Paris, I'm looking at your chat room and it's going crazy. It is going crazy over there. And I'm watching some of the comments go back and forth, and it's a great conversation. And I think this is where the ideas and the agenda and the strategy is going to be born out of people like us three right now, who may definitely represent different constituents, but nonetheless, we can find some common ground to, you know, maybe use the Republican banner if it is a third party movement. I think the third party movement really is just when it's all said and done, it's an agenda that we want to see a different type of agenda, a different type of leader. That's all it really means, that we need to get these things done. If the Republican Party will be that vehicle, so be it. If it's a third party that will apply the pressure, I'm a party guy myself, but nonetheless, I'm a big agenda dude. And if the agenda is not being pushed, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to. It's a contingency plan. That's all it really is, to be a contingency plan. They have a chance to make it right by continuing. They need to build. President Trump set the foundation. We can build on it, and it worked. And honestly, his foundation, although he sometimes talked about Republicans will do this, the Democrats will do this, whatever, that's political. But once you peel back the layers of the onion and get to the actual meat of it, it was strictly focusing on getting stuff done.
And let's just be clear, Paris, man. I think we sometimes we overblow kind of what Trump did versus like how he did it, right? We know he wasn't necessarily a true, whatever you want to call true blood. I don't care about that stuff, honestly. what people liked was the fact of the matter. The dude, he just kind of stood up for himself and said, "Listen, you're not gonna call me this, that, and the other, and I'm not gonna call you right back. I'm not gonna play your ninth grade debate,
Street fighter.
class. No,
Yep.
if you call me out my name, I'm gonna call
I'm gonna
you
call
out
you
your
out.
name. And it's gonna be a
Yep.
problem with me. Then I got a problem with you. Deal with it." And I think people just liked it. It wasn't so much. I mean, there were a few policy things that we liked about it, but the fact of the matter is, it was just like he's like you said. He stood up. He's like, you know what? I'm tired of feel like I can't say anything and stand up for myself when I don't like something. And he just spoke to those Americans who just felt like, yeah, if you don't like it, say you don't like it, and also let's roll our sleeves up and get to the answers of it, and stop with all this bureaucratic dancing and dive. We can't get anything done. Find a way. Let's get it done. Stop all the crap talk. And if you want to talk slick to me, I'm going to talk slick right back to you.
Yep. But I think the problem there was that he went and he fought against everybody, and he took it personally, and I'm all about that. Don't get me wrong. You want to talk some trash at me, then I'm gonna have to get at you depending on how big you are. Like the bigger you are, the more I'm gonna have to come at you. However, at a certain point, the lion doesn't really concern itself with the affairs of the deer or the sheep or anything else that it hunts. So there are certain individuals that Trump should have just been like, okay, they said what? Who is that? And just moved on and just dismissed them. Persona non grata.
Right. You got to have a few. If you're going, as I call it in my community, and you might say it as well too, if you're going to call the dozens, you got to also know when, like, yeah, he's beat. I don't got to go there. That dude's a non-factor. Like who? And dismissive game sometimes is the worst game. Like, well, who's saying that?
Oh yeah.
You mean that dude who barely won his election? Oh, that dude. I'm not figuring out that.
What's his name? What's his name? Oh no, I don't know who that is.
Yeah, like I always say, who? I use that tactic with my kids.
Yep.
Back in the day, they're having a temper tantrum on the kitchen floor. I left the kitchen. Once they lost their audience,
you just got to know how to pick your you got to know how to pick your battles, and then also just know sometimes let pull back when it's time. Like, you know what? I got her riled up a little bit. I'm gonna pull back because I'm focused on this right now.
Yes.
And you got to have that kind of that diversity in your toolbox to know when to stick, when to move, when to jab, when to go, and when to do the rope.
Yep.
And occasionally when to get the stick.
You gotta be. And I don't know if he had that ability, like to kind of shift those gears. He had like one gear, and that gear was full speed. To be real slick about this whole debate game with the power of the English language, you got to know when to say, "Wow, they really coming at me hard today." I thought I was just doing a good job. Unfortunately, some people just don't get it, and so you got to be able to flip that thing when you need to flip that thing.
Dude should have been like going out to his press conferences, and he should have a list. Like he should have just brought a notepad like this and be like, all right, nope, not worrying about you. Jim Acosta, you and me, we're gonna have a conversation right now. And he should have done it right there in the presser. Pick and choose your battles, but do it wisely. Yep. I gotta dip out for about 10 minutes if you guys don't mind.
Okay, we'll see if we're still on. We're gonna have a conversation here. Yeah, come on back.
All right.
Hey, all right. It won't be hard for the spicy, my man, the man out of Tulsa himself. So let me just also say this, my friend. I think you do a great job of really trying to create the space and the format of let's be a think tank and let's figure this thing out. How do we combine all these coalitions? There's nothing wrong with having all these coalitions. Some of the struggles of the Republican Party in Milwaukee County that we've been trying to grow in West Allis forever. And I see a real good guy in the chat room going crazy, who's actually out there in West Allis.
Tracy,
we need to grow that. Yeah, we need to grow that, man. Some of the things that Bob Denal says, I know we can all disagree on some of the times his approach to some things he says, but there's a group of people that before Corona hit still like to go bowling on Friday night. Who still bowled and got a few pitchers of beers, and that's what they did, and played softball on Saturday night. That I didn't see. I didn't see the Republican Party. And I think sometimes we have to understand this also. Like the Republican Party It's only the vehicle. And I tell people who say, well, Orlando, how can you be a black man and you work with the Republican Party? And I say this all the time. I don't have any permanent friends, no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. I can work with anybody to make sure the agenda gets done. And we have to understand that the Republican Party is only a vehicle, and we make the party. Stop. And I hear a lot of the talk about the leadership. And, I may disagree with the panelists tonight. I think Robin's a decent dude. I work with Robin. I'm on his task force. But I get it, but my thing is this, like, we make the party. So whatever it's going to become, it is upon us to do it. Now, we do have some old leadership that does need to go. And I agree with you. Sometimes you need to upset to shake it up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sometimes, like, when you bring out a fish and you let it sit on the counter for a few hours, eventually it starts to stink.
Right.
What's happening is this forever being in leadership breeds complacency. People, you get some Republicans that'll talk about, oh, I believe in term limits. Well, you believe in term limits, start term limiting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about party elections. Why does Robin Voss have to be speaker now for 9th and 10th year? Why can't we give the reins to someone else now? And why does because some people want to challenge him, and bless their hearts, they want to challenge him. Why does he have to stick in, all of a sudden remove them from committee chairs? You see the same thing with Nancy Pelosi on the other side. At some point, you've got to give somebody a voice. And then you find that, well, like you said, find that common ground. Okay, what can we actually get done? What can we work on to get done?
Paris, can I cut you off for 1 second?
Yeah.
Man, you got to address some of your chat room. Your chat room is going crazy. You got to go ahead, and the comments are awesome. They're passionate, but they're having their whole conversation like, wow. But you gotta give it space. You gotta let people have the venue and the platform. And that's one of the reasons I love your show, because you do give the space and you do bring in the people who are following you online, and you bring up their questions.
I like to challenge, and sometimes I'll post something that I don't necessarily agree with. And I'm taking both sides of this third party aspect. Yeah. I want to use the idea of the third party to hold our own side accountable. And yes, you know what? There's going to be some losses because of it, but we have to be willing to lose a few battles to win the war, ultimately. And
I don't know, and you may have to help me out with this, because I'm as long as I'm in this game, I'm still learning some things, because I'm learning that are Republicans different than conservatives? So I hear that quite often. And are conservatives so principled that they can't moderate and move on certain issues? Or are the Republicans are the ones who are more of the deal makers, who are willing to say, you know what, I can give a little bit here, I can give a little bit there to get an ultimately, the overall move. So the question will be, if those are the two different type of personalities that we have, what is the one that combines the most? If we have to figure out as a group, do we want to win?
The answer to your question, it's all the above. You get some people, and I've even written articles on this. Sometimes you can be so principled that you accomplish nothing. It's like, oh, that wasn't a perfect plan. We didn't get everything we wanted, so I don't like it. Well, did you get something you wanted? Okay, a little bit. The libertarians refused to vote for Trump because he's not doing a lot of conservative things, and he's, there was a lot of spending under Trump. I'll admit that. But look at the things that libertarians believe in that he did accomplish. So you enabled Joe Biden, and you're going to get zero. So you're so principled that you're getting nothing. So that's the type of thing I have. Now, I have no problem making deals and negotiating. Sometimes you give a little as a negotiation tool. My issue is with the political class of the Republican Party, the leadership, the experts. They spent whatever, I don't know, let's just say $20 million to elect Donald Trump in this state.
Mm-hmm.
That money went to consultants who said, "Oh, I got a friend who owns a print shop that'll make all these thousands of postcards, and he's going to give me a 15% kickback." Things like that. So we've got this political class that are elitists that think they know better than anybody, and they spend this money. They didn't invest this money in people that can communicate with people. No postcard can deliver a message like Orlando Owens can, person to person. I think the Trump was an enigma because of the fact that he had this kind of celebrity persona. He was on TV all those years, and he was just, he's just nonstop guy that everybody loved until he became a Republican, and it was, so he had that bully pulpit. He didn't have to really campaign in 2016 because the media campaigned for him, and they didn't realize they were doing it.
Are we talking about? And I love this discussion, and I hope the people who are watching, they're digging this as well too, because are we talking about the people who are, who give the big bucks to the party, and you need to try to satisfy them as far as the strategy, which is different than your grassroots people who are just working class people, or working poor, and just believe in a cause. And how do we coexist? Is it wrong to have a consultant? I don't know. I think anybody can bring some ideas to the table. If the consultant understands, okay, go ahead.
I'd say no, but I'm getting an echo in here. Turn down your speaker a little bit. I think, yeah. Okay. I'd say no. I don't say consultants are inherently bad. What I do say is these consultants are so professional that they have all the answers, that they don't listen to the rank and file, to the people who are in the streets actually seeing what's actually going on. They're in their little cave in Madison, and they sit there, or the ones in DC nationally. That's what I have an issue with.
So with me being an ex-candidate, and I'm going to probably be a candidate again, there were some things that came from the state party, not even the state party, but the political teams that I didn't agree with, because I'm like, well, I don't need to talk to a bunch of Republicans. It's only a few Republicans in the area. I didn't talk to Democrats. And they were like, well, I don't know, Orlando. I was like, wait a minute. I can tell you because I live here. I can also tell you what needs to be on my flyer. Well, this flyer was poll tested, and it was, think tanked. I'm like, well, no, that ain't going to fly where I'm coming from. So I kind of get what you're saying, that, yeah, we need to be able to do, like, everybody needs to be in that room, from the guy who says, you know what, you need to come to my bowling league, 4 days a week. There's 7 different leagues at the bowling alley that you need to come talk to people, buy some beer for people, and buy a few games for people, so they can say, oh, this guy's okay. You need to come to my softball league on Thursday night because there's 7 teams playing softball Saturday night, and you come talk to everybody and buy them a couple cases of beer also. Like, oh, okay. A consultant wouldn't be able to tell you that. But if you live in an area, you know your area, because, like, I live here. I know where people are. I know what people talk about. And if you're going to say, well, no, we need to have a bunch of ads, we need to do this postcard, give me some money and a few volunteers or pay staffers. We're going to go to the local bowling alley. We're going to work the bowling alley in the parking lot. We're going to, the next guy who bowls 250, I got a case of beer for you. We need to get to, like, okay, this dude is okay. But the consultant wouldn't be able to tell you that.
Yep. And you've got to, and honestly, we've got to be where people are. And that's the whole thing. I've been begging for probably 15 years. And David Kars has been part of that, even before, when Brad Courtney was the head of the Milwaukee County Republicans. And then David Kars came in, and he's, once again, become stale. Nice guy, but he's ineffective. Begging. We need a Republican Party office on Martin Luther King Drive. And we also need one on Chavez Drive. We need to be where the people we're targeting, the new Republican voters, we need them. We need to stop preaching to the choir. Okay.
Yep.
Begging for that. None of that changed ever until, quite frankly, President Trump running. The Trump campaign put the office on 3rd Street. A lot of help from Chris Lawrence. He had the vision to help with that and stuff like that. But the Milwaukee County leadership has to be changed.
Let me be clear. Let me just tell you some inside ball for that office. So the Black Republicans and conservatives for years have told the party that we really wanted to have a city office in Milwaukee. And so
you've been begging for it.
Exactly. And so often they consider the offices that were in Whitefish Bay or in Glendale or in Shorewood or in West Allis as Milwaukee. That's not Milwaukee. That's Milwaukee County, but that's not Milwaukee. So Chris Lawrence, I mean, I don't have nothing against Chris, but let me just tell the story because I was there. So Gerard Randall, who is the chair of the African American committee for the Republican Party for a long time, I call him the godfather of Black Republicans. For years, with Sam Hagedorn and a lot of the inner city Milwaukee Republicans, we've always said we need an office in the city of Milwaukee. And don't give me this, we're going to put it right on 124th or Highway 100. That's not Milwaukee. That's the borderline between Milwaukee and Milwaukee County. So don't tell me that. So between that organization, which is Gerard Randall, and other people who like Sam Hagedorn, myself, we actually, supported that for years, and we just so happened to find a donor. So nothing against Chris. I want to set the story straight. Chris Lawrence didn't have anything to do with his office on King Drive.
Well, I mean, he also pushed for it too for a while and stuff like that. And out of all the people in Milwaukee County, as far as the leadership goes, he's the only one that did anything. I'm gonna be clear.
We may disagree.
Yeah.
Chris Lawrence has nothing to do with the office on MLK. I'm just going to tell you that. I respect.
No, I said the Trump campaign. Well, the Trump campaign made it happen though, because they had the money got funneled through the Trump campaign because he wanted to be where people weren't.
Let me correct this for the record's sake. There was a donor who has supported local campaigns in the southeastern area that actually said that she decided to pull the trigger before the Trump campaign came in. Trump campaign came in after that office was established. They came in after we had already signed the leases. And then when they came in, they said the location that we had, they liked that location and they would help pay part of the leases there. But initially, that office was done by the sweat, blood, tears of Bob Spindell, Gerard Randall.
Spindell was involved. I'll give Spindell credit. He's another one that's worth something out there.
I'm just trying to set the story straight. That's all. And they came in because they were looking for another location. When the Trump campaign came in and said, we like this location, we like what you guys are doing, we'll add on to what you're doing. So they came in
they continued on.
Correct.
But
correct.
But if you leave it up to David Karst, that office will be gone. I guarantee it. He never wanted an office there.
The good thing is this, that the office will be there for the next 2 years.
Yeah. Well,
the donor
we need it to be there forever.
I agree with you. The donor
we need to be where they are.
I agree with you. I'm not going to deny you that the office that we had on the South Side needs to be there. Hopefully, I mean, and on the South Side, I don't mean no disrespect to anybody in RPMC, but I mean South Side, right across the 35th Street Bridge, where Veronica Diaz and Angel Sanchez and
that's what I said, like Chavez Drive and all that.
Yeah, Cesar Chavez. Yep, right across the viaduct.
Yep, we need one there, and that's ultimately, in order for people to believe in your message, they actually have to hear your message. So you have to be there, and that's the whole thing. I think the majority of Black community, Hispanic community, a lot of Christians there, stuff like that. So you have conservative values per se, and you don't have to be Christian to be a conservative, but there's certain values that are inherent in Christianity. You have to have that. You have those values, but you don't realize you're actually a Republican, and that's the problem. It's like, holy shit, I'll be damned, I'm a Republican. People don't realize that they have this epiphany. A lot of it, most recently, with the walk away movement. telling people to walk away. And it was started by a gay guy, who made a bit, and then he recently got kicked off of Facebook for what? Encouraging people to walk away from a political party and not be a drone. That's all he did.
Yep.
He didn't say we need to take up arms and go fight. So he liked Trump. He didn't leave because of Trump. He left because he didn't like what the party was doing. And eventually he warmed up to Trump. So it's a whole different.
So Paris, my thing to you is, I'm going to put you on the spot and ask you about white voters. Like, what's going to be the plan to go out and get some of this North Shore back again? What's going to be the plan to go out and get this West Allis working class, as they say, the Trump voter, and they say the blue collar voter? I'm like, you mean the white boy that works in the union? I go, okay, I didn't know that's what you're trying to say. Well, the blue collar, you mean the white boy who works in the union? So the question is, what's the strategy to pull some of them in?
Once again, be where they are. One thing I learned, and everybody knows that in 2016, I worked for a congressional campaign that was a little unpopular in Republican circles. Turned out the guy ended up being a little more anti-Semitic and white supremacist for my taste. I didn't know that at first during the campaign, but
a real gem.
Yeah, live and learn. Paychecks didn't bounce at the time, whatever. But one thing I learned from it, the dude actually approached a union office, and he went and spoke at the union hall to some people. And he goes, the one guy was like, I've been a union leader for 25 years. We've never had a Republican speak here.
Wow.
We need to be involved. We need to be where they are. It's the same concept with what I just said about the black voters or Hispanic voters. We need to be where they are.
Let me tell you something, Paris. If you look up the state party makeup, we have subcommittees, right? Gerard Randall is the chair of the African American committee. We have another chair that's over the Hispanic committee. There is a committee that is for union workers. And if I'm not mistaken, Van Weingart is the chair of that. We have a committee that is for just labor. It's a labor committee. I'm like, who's on that committee? Because that voter that everybody's talking about, that Trump voter that everybody's talking about, that's the white boy, blue collar worker. Who's over that committee? Why aren't we talking to the unions?
Yep. And the hard part right now is going to be a lot of people who Trump was able to get to come over in that demographic. I said in 2016, the Reagan Democrats have come home, and he increased his base by 11, 12 million people. Guess what? Right now, they're disenchanted. I haven't voted for years. I voted for Trump. And, in their opinion, something was stolen from them. Something was taken from them. Why bother? So we have our work cut out for us. There's a lot of it. Or they're energized, and now they're the idiots who went and taped cardboard boxes on the windows so you couldn't watch the voting counting and all that stuff. I don't care. Even if there was not a single ballot that was cast illegally, those actions sure made them look bad. And that pissed off a lot of people. Those are the things that energize people. So who knows what's going to happen? Hey, we've got a troll in our midst. Check this out. I'm going to post it up here. Watch this.
Damn test tube baby over here.
Yeah. Whoever this is, God loves abortions, and Trump is my God. I want him to be king. Yeah, you're a freaking troll. Get off my show. God,
I would love to go to town on that one.
Yeah, I blocked the user. He's gone, so they can't say anything. But seriously, it's.
I can tell you another group that we need to work on. I have a real agenda that I want to push, the idea of a lot of females who are African American, and there's probably a lot of females, period. A lot of them work in healthcare. We got to go out and try to work with those healthcare workers. We have a lot of Black females who are CNA, CBRF. That's like a huge field. And if we're not talking to them, if we're not talking to the guys about job opportunities through like the Joseph Project, helping them restore their, gun rights. If we're not talking to the Black female who's working in healthcare and trying to get her better wages, like, what are we doing? right? That's kind of like where we need to be. I think in this time right now, we don't have a lot of time. We got to figure this thing out. We have a gubernatorial race. We have a Senate race that Landry of the Milwaukee Bucks is one of the candidates thinking about running. Mandela Barnes, all the people running against Senator Johnson. We don't know what Senator Johnson is going to do. So you still got Kevin.
I don't think he's going to run. Yeah,
that's good. There's a good choice of that too. There's a good chance. So, what does this new coalition look like? We know Rebecca Clayfish. Maybe I don't know. You may have better information than I have. I don't know.
Oh, she's running.
Okay.
Let me throw this at you guys.
We know she's going to run.
I want to throw this at you guys here because do I have any feedback coming up from my end?
I do. I hear feedback.
I don't hear anything.
What?
I don't hear anything.
It interferes with the voices in my head, whatever it is.
Yeah, and I gotta check my switches here, make sure I'm don't got any crazy feedback. But so here's a factor that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and I correlates with everything that both of you are saying. There has been a massive shift in the population going from the urban areas to the rural areas. And as you guys know, I live in a rural area. For me to get to Milwaukee, we're talking it's a 2+ hour trek. And I will gladly do it if I know it is time well invested. The problem is that there hasn't been a lot that has motivated me to do it. And what I've noticed in my area is that you have a lot of folks, Hispanic, Black, that are in these areas. And when we want to talk to these people like Orlando, what you're talking about, how do you address these folks? How do you tell these people, you know what, you hold conservative values? In my particular county, we don't even have GOP representation in the county. But I tell you who's working overtime, the DNC. Boy, they hustle. They and there was a woman
they don't stop.
No, like I said, they're like the damn T-1000. They don't quit. They will not stop, and they don't, But there's a major shift in the demographic, and it's not just because of COVID. It's COVID. It's taxes. It is the riots. People want to get away from being in these areas. When you look at the economy, there's an economy of scale, and where I'm at, I have a beautiful home. I love my home. And the same home, if I was to buy in the Milwaukee County area, I'd probably pay twice as much. My tax bill would probably be 3 times as much. People are attracted
for less
to that.
Quality services.
Well, exactly. And what amazes me is how on the state level, the GOP absolutely is just blind to this. Why? Because they believe in this idea of, we got this Republican stronghold. Well, here, let me cue you in on something. Our county here, and I don't want to state specifically, I think we had 70% that voted Republican this time around, but I know that's down from where it's been in the past. And why? The demographics have changed, and they are continuing to change. In my area, I am seeing people from Southeast Wisconsin. I am seeing people from the northern part of Illinois. They are moving up here. Why? They are escaping the tax hells. They are escaping the COVID overcrowdings. They want peace, and they are more conservative than they realize. And the GOP has failed to recognize that. And I understand COVID's done its thing for 9-10 months now, but they have failed to act on it. They are being reactionary, and as a result, they deserve to lose if they don't react to this quickly. And so far they failed.
And let's be real. People have died from COVID today. Joe Biden has blood on his hands.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And unemployment is going up because of Joe Biden.
I'm just using their own rhetoric against them. Someone dies from COVID, it's blood on Trump's hands. Well, now there's blood on Biden's hands.
I'm too lazy to riot, so I ain't doing it.
I want to speak to something that we got to clear up, man. We as conservatives or whoever you want to call yourself. I'm challenging a lot of these titles myself. I mean, we got to get away from rhetoric and talk about giving things away for free.
Yep.
And that that mindset, man. I don't know who. You're going to have people who are, no good in any population and any section you
Oh, no kidding.
find. But that idea, man, is just, I don't know. I had to chew out a Republican last week, man, and cussed him out. God forgive me. The man was on the phone trying to tell me that those people in Milwaukee don't want to work. I was like, who are those people? You're talking to a black man in America in a black city. Who are those people when you say those people in Milwaukee don't want to work? And this is a conservative Republican.
You know, I just got a tropic. You know, I just got a Tropic Thunder flashback, right? What do you mean, you people?
I mean, so we got to stop that, man. That rhetoric or that tone or that language, that don't help anything. You're gonna always have a population of people who don't want to do anything. Period. We need to focus on the ones who want to do something, create opportunities. I see someone talking about crime in the city of Milwaukee. I believe crime is a direct derivative of opportunities. Now, there are a lot of people who believe crime is because people just choose to be criminal minded, which I don't necessarily agree with totally. I think if you had a chance between doing something legit and a good paying job and doing something illegal to get money, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I talk to Democrats about this all the time and Republicans about this. They're talking about the Democrats are saying we want a $15 an hour minimum wage, and the Republicans the Republicans are saying that's too much money to pay someone working at McDonald's. Well, damn it, they're both missing the point. The point is the inner cities have been decimated because the companies that pay those $15 an hour jobs, the ones that are actually worth that money, they left. Right. So the only thing they're left with is fast food and stuff like that.
But ask yourself, why do they leave?
Ask yourself, stuff back in, the ones that pay the money, bring those companies back in, and then you don't have to worry about McDonald's having to pay $15 an hour. They can still pay their $7 an hour. Those are supposed to be starter jobs anyway. You're not supposed to raise a family at McDonald's.
But ask yourself, why did a lot of these companies in Orlando and I had this conversation? If you take a look at areas on the south side or areas on the north side, if I have the money to invest in a company, I'm not going to invest in an area where the moment you don't like something that's not even related to what we're doing, you're going to torch it. All right, one time I'm done, not happening again. And that's a problem. That the other issue I think is that culturally, and I divide culture in two different ways: micro, macro. Micro is, I want to be a gangster, I want to be a redneck, I want to be whatever. Macro is just overall. Macroly, in the cultural sense, when you look at unemployment, there's always going to be a group of people that just do not or cannot want to work. I want to say I recall that number being at 2.3%. That's essentially perfect unemployment. So if you get down to 3%, man, you are damn good. I don't care what party, I will vote for you. I'll tell you that right now.
Zero. It'll never be zero.
Never. But if you can get down close to 2.3, you're banging. But for that individual that's like, well, I'm working at McDonald's. How long are you working there? 25 years. You shouldn't be working at McDonald's still unless you own it.
Unless you're in management. I mean, there's a guy that owns a McDonald's down the street from here. He started flipping burgers 20 years ago. Yep. He owns 2 McDonald's now, and he's living very nicely.
And management at Mickey D's, they pay well. But my thing is though is that let me just finish this point though. Steel sharpens steel. Yeah, sorry. Steel sharpens steel. My point simply is that it's good for you to start out at Mickey D's. It's good for you to start at Pick and Save, Festival Foods, wherever. And this is where Orlando, I think, really can come in, especially when it comes to like the Joseph Project and other things like that. That's great. You can follow orders. That's great that you can flip a burger and get the order right the first time. And what can we do to elevate you to make you the best version of yourself you can be? Orlando, yes, sir.
Well, let me cut off my camera because my wife, who's pregnant with my baby, is walking
Hi,
behind me.
honey. How you doing?
Hi, sweetie.
You didn't know, so let me.
Congratulations.
So let me just say this, man. I think
She'll
we
beat
have
me
to
up.
also look at that opportunities. I think. Let me just cut it like this: if we don't find a way to increase pay, we pay for it on the back end through the social services, from low income housing, food stamps, government funded health care, government funded child care. So we're going to pay either way. I think most people, even the people who receive those benefits, would rather have a higher pay and to pay McDonald's more than $1 on a dollar menu if they were getting paid $13, $14, $15 an hour. So as Republicans and conservatives, we have to make a decision. Either we're going to say, let's pay them more money, in essence, trying to get them off the system, or we're fine with the way things are, because they're going to stay on this. They're going to be working at McDonald's and still getting low income housing, still health care, still getting.
Yeah, so we're paying for it.
That's
Yeah,
going to be more than saying, let's pay more on the front end.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that point as it is right now. But
Yeah.
the best thing to do is bring those $15 an hour jobs back, the ones that are worth that amount of money. You know, nobody would agree
we have those. I think we have
but
those
not,
in the city of Milwaukee.
a lot of them have left. I mean, look what just happened a couple days ago. Johnson Controls, they're leaving Milwaukee.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you the last time that Masterlock was hiring, direct hire. Temp services have pimped and temp, especially black and brown people, to death.
Yep.
The people that run the temp services are the ones that are making the money. It's not the employees, and
Right.
and it's also the ones that are running the payday lending companies that are you know.
Oh, the interest rates are astronomical.
And don't get me wrong, I think there's a place for temp services, but they should be temporary. But when you have companies who are more concerned, and I get it, the companies do it for a strategic standpoint that they think it may be better. But we have to, we're going to have, if we're going to have the discussion, let's have the whole discussion. If we're only paying people $10, $11, $12 an hour, they still technically qualify for state benefits. That means technically we still got to pay for them. So, and again, what side of the equation we're going to be on, y'all? Either we want to increase or incentivize companies to pay more, because of Joseph Project, our average paying job is $15.50 an hour, and this is entry level. These are some of the same jobs that are happening here in the city of Milwaukee.
But it still comes down to the point. You can increase everybody to $30,000 a year, and you know what? That $30,000 a year is still going to have the same buying power that the $15 an hour has.
Right.
At some point, you have to, and that's where, you know, I'm gonna come out of the closet.
Oh no,
where I'm a Bernie bot. I think Bernie Sanders is absolutely right. There should be an opportunity for free college in this country, free, 100%. Why? Not because you're giving a handout to people, but you're making an investment, because what will happen is those people will learn a skill. Anybody who gets that free college, they'll learn a skill, get a degree, do whatever. So they become contributors to society instead of living off of society. That's where I think. But only certain degrees, though. I'm talking, you know, either trade schools or bachelor's degrees that actually mean something, not women's studies or something like that.
I would have to disagree with the bachelor's degrees, but I would say to the associate's programs, certainly. And you see Tracy down there, he's calling BS on it.
He's calling bullshit. So,
I know. But
I like to stir the pot.
I know. Because when you think about it, right, essentially at this particular point in our history, having a bachelor's degree right now is no different than having a high school diploma. It's almost irrelevant at this point.
Well, I think the push for a bachelor's degree is what's destroying it, because the trades are dying.
Right.
You know, the average welder in Wisconsin makes like $90,000 a year.
Yes, sir.
Because there aren't enough of them out there.
I have two stepsons that are both welders. And I'll tell you I'm not sure what the first one, how well he's doing, but I know the second one, he's he's on the road to making bank. And I tell you, man, when you talk about, what do we got to do to make sure we bring up the wages and stuff like that, that's all good. We want to talk about, bringing up wages, but at the same point, we got to keep things realistic and take a look at the economy, because if everybody's making $15 an hour, now all of a sudden we're looking at, instead of a $5 Happy Meal, we're getting a $20 Happy Meal. The problem
bro, I
is
think
that,
we're fine with that.
and
We're fine with
yeah,
that, though.
I'm not fine with that. I'm not fine with that. That's the problem. And I'm gonna go back Tropic Thunder here.
It's not changing the equation, because all you're doing is you're shifting the
right.
floor.
Zimbabwe has millionaires.
To a different, but they're poor.
Right. So I mean, I'm gonna go back to Tropic Thunder. I'm gonna go back to Tropic Thunder. If you're a burger flipper, no, you should not be making $15 an hour. A nutless monkey can do that. I'm going Les Grossman on that, because here's the thing. If you're a burger flipper at the age 18, by 20, you should be doing something else. You should have elevated your game. So this is where I think skills are important. You got into McDonald's. Let's say you love McDonald's, then God bless you, go to McDonald's University. McDonald's University is highly praised, highly accredited. It is on point, and you will make good money if you can succeed the rigors and the trials there. But if you can't, elevate yourself to move on to something else. Elevate yourself to be a welder. Elevate yourself to be a plumber, a carpenter. Do something that's going to step up your game. But don't expect to make $15, $20 an hour because you worked at McDonald's for 20 years. And I feel bad picking on McDonald's because McDonald's got some bomb-ass breakfast.
So let's go here. I think, because one of my big things is economic development and employment. Mm-hmm. We need to create a pathway again. If we're not going to pay the McDonald's workers $15 an hour, which, because you say, as payers say, if you pay them more, price goes up, then the gap is still there. Nothing really changes. Besides the fact that, because take home, based on our low income safety net programs, are based on the percent of income, so they very well could possibly, based on the wage, be out of the programs. I think that's a benefit itself. But okay, let's go with Paris's thing.
Certainly.
That if you raise everything up and it's still not a significant, there's no real difference. The take home is still going to be the same. Okay.
Everything goes accordingly.
I'm talking about buying power. Buying power.
Buying power
to the same dollar.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then the question goes to, because there's a lot of entry-level manufacturers that will pay $15 on up. That's not happening here in the city. I think that was Paris's point, that we need to bring those opportunities back. So a guy who may just have a high school diploma or, who can be trained on the job, because I can tell you in working with employers that that high school diploma or even post high school, not necessarily the biggest thing they ask for. I mean, it's high school diploma is cool, but the most important tangible skill set are not even on the resume. Those skill sets is your attitude and your ability to come every day. And do you want to be successful? Because everything else I can teach you.
Yes. Yeah, most bosses don't train anybody, but they want to be sure that you're going to actually show up every day.
Well, and I think that's a big part of the equation, because what are the two of the biggest obstacles in employment? It's the drug test and it is your criminal background check. So definitely, we look at criminal background check.
Hey, if you don't, I'm a little libertarian. I've worked with a few Democrats, but I'm a little libertarian on this. What are you really drug testing for? Are you testing me if I'm high right now?
Right.
If I smoked last night before I came to work?
Yes, and those are things we need to really look at, and let's have that conversation. But here's the thing, and this is Orlando. This is where I think you really can come into play, because when you look at, here we are, 2021, coming toward the end of January. How many of the folks that you're working with are working on coding? Learning things like C++, was a number of the other programming languages. There is money in that individually. How many folks know of just simply the word cryptocurrency, and they can navigate?
Need a bachelor's degree for that.
Oh, thank you for segueing into that, because you look at Google, Microsoft, and I do want to bash big tech, but I'm not going to. But what are they gravitating to? Not degrees. They're not gravitating to associate bachelors or anything. They're looking at micro certifications. Elon Musk will not even consider somebody with a bachelor's degree. Why? He wants to know what you can do. And it's a marvelous
Most
thing
good
when you think
managers are
about
like
it.
that.
What's that?
Most good managers are like that.
Right.
They look for skill, ability.
So one of the things what you're saying then, this is how we can talk about solutions, and this is what makes us different than, in my opinion.
Mhm.
We can look at the number of monies that we spend toward economic development, and I work on the Speaker's Task Force on racial inequities, and one of the departments is economic development.
Right.
If you're saying coding and this other crypto thing you're talking about, they want to know,
Yep.
can you go through a training? The question is, can you pay people to go through the training so they have some income coming in while
Mhm.
they go through the training? And if they can do this thing, I'm with that. How
Yes.
do we do that? And when they hire someone who has a criminal background and someone who maybe not have the best resume, if we can find the employer at the end of training, because everybody and their mama trained. The question
Yes.
always with training is, can you land a job after you go through the training? And
I want the
do these
employer.
employers
I want the
give you a
employer
shot?
to. The employer should invest in that. This is the employee type of employee I'm looking for. They have to have
Yep.
these skills. So we're going to help teach them that skill. We're going to invest in them,
Yep.
based on whatever. And you mentioned criminal background. That's another thing that Trump changed the criminal justice system a little bit. He helped get rid of with the First Step Act and stuff like that. That was a huge help. But let's be honest, the First Step Act, the thing that the bill that it was replacing, yeah, Joe Biden sponsored it. He was the main sponsor of that bill, and Bill Clinton signed it into law. But let's be honest, there were a lot of Republican signatures on that bill. A lot.
Well, I'll be the first one to tell you that I backed it too, because if you look at that time, gang violence was out of control. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, but it was heavily tilted against certain demographics. It was. I mean, it wasn't, and it's the same thing with I have issues with stop and frisk. Stop and frisk is,
I do too.
But seriously, I don't, these conservatives who support it don't realize, it's only a matter of time before it's used against everybody, because you're doing away with the Fourth Amendment altogether. Yep. You're assuming someone guilty before they've had due process, and you see someone carrying a gun doing something they are constitutionally allowed to do. You can't just assume they're a criminal. It's like, I'm walking around with a gun. I don't want someone to come up to me and, okay, get your hands against the wall and do that. No, wait, I'm having my rights infringed.
Yeah.
That's what stop and frisk is. You're infringing on people's rights. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Like it or not. But I think, but I think, I know I am, but I think
I said your chat room is crazy right now.
I know, I love it. I don't piss people off when I said free education. Okay, I'm going to piss them off again. I think the criminal justice system, something that has to change, and I'm only talking for minor crimes. But you're 18 years old. You go over to was that Burnham's Leather or whatever, that's a leather store in the mall, and you steal a leather jacket. You get caught.
Yeah.
That's on your record for the rest of your flipping life. They should give you the ability to work it off, or, if you stay clean for a year, we'll remove it from your record. Something like that. Minor offenses will give you, it's kind of like a second chance type of thing.
It's called deferred prosecution, and we already have that. First time offenders program, we already have it. The problem is,
but how often is it used?
And that's the question. And who gets to use it? The DA here in Milwaukee County is DA Chisholm, who is a byproduct of E. Michael McCann, who are both good Democrats. This is also the zip code that has the most incarcerated individuals, African American descent, in the world. Right here in the state of Wisconsin, not just in the country, but in the world. So again, you have deferred prosecution, first time offender programs. The question is, who gets it? And why is it not used more often? Which is the pipeline of prison. So what is Josh Call doing? What is DA Chisholm doing?
I'm sorry, kidding. But we're this is what's creating the revolving door. All of a sudden you have this on your record, and what's the first thing that an employer looks for? Do you have a criminal record? What's the last thing the employer's going to do? Hire someone with a criminal record. They're rare.
But I think part of the problem is that when it's like, okay, we're going to defer prosecution. All right, I got off with it, so I'm emboldened. That's
Well,
the problem.
hopefully that's not the case with the supportive services. That if you are a knucklehead like that, then we need,
Mhm.
we need to deal with you accordingly.
Yeah,
But I don't want to
it-
throw away the whole program because a few people don't get it. It's like
Right.
having Huber to get rid of Huber because we got a few guys who are scound or get rid of work release. We're going to always have a
Mhm.
population of people that's not going to do right. Let's
Right.
not throw away the whole program.
right, and we need to do a better job of, some people say, "Oh, lock them up and throw away the key." Yeah, some people deserve it. I get that. You
Right.
kill
That's
people,
true.
you
Yep.
rape, you whatever. But okay, you get someone, you put them in the slammer for 5 years, and let's be honest, there's more crime in jail than there is out of jail. I don't know how
Prisonization.
or why that happens, but there's drugs in prison. There's all this stuff. I don't know how it
Yep.
even gets in there, but it's in there. So someone's
But
in that
again,
environment. Hold
but
on. Somebody's in that environment for 5 years.
Mhm.
And then you say, okay, you're out. You paid your debt to society. Here, go become a citizen.
Good luck.
They don't get put back into society with whatever skills or whatever so they don't end up back in jail. That's the problem. Our
Yep.
system is designed to keep people in the system.
Yep.
And I don't know what the right answer is.
Well, I could tell you because I work in the system and our reentry services need to be a little bit more diverse and a lot more flexible in what they do. We need to have more services that continue to keep people engaged on that path of success than they're not to be successful. Our opportunities for a lot of people that come to the Joseph Project who do maybe have that criminal background, who's recently released, if we can get them when they first get out and they can land a job, the level of the number, a high level of them being positive and being, won't go back is very high. The probability is if we can catch them then before they've run into another few roadblocks or why they can't get hired. Somebody passed me up. I went on this temp assignment. They let me go. If we can catch them when they first come out or integrating back home, then you will see a high level of people being successful because the one thing they don't want to do, they don't want to go back.
Nope.
Yeah. Well, and think about this. The most well-known example out there, George Floyd.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he had been in and out of the system, and supposedly everybody thought that he was becoming clean. It was obvious he wasn't because he was, his blood tests came back that he was all full of drugs and stuff like that.
Right.
But people are missing the point. They're talking about, oh, he was killed by the cop or not, whatever. That can be debated, whatever. That's all still going to go through courts or whatever like that. But the bigger issue, how did he end up turning back to drugs? What got him back to that point again? What got him back into I guess he was pushing some phony bills or something like that. Some counterfeit money.
Yeah.
So he's committing crime again. Why? How did that happen? What? I know people fall through the cracks, but come on, that's a microcosm of some bigger issues here.
Well, I think it goes to several different things you guys talked about already. When you're incarcerated, Paris, you gave the example, 5 years. Number one, you have prisonization. When you're in an area where only the strongest survive, well, you need to get yourself stronger. If you're not strong now, well, you better get stronger. You're going to be victimized constantly. So it makes you a better criminal. Bill mentions in the chat room, addiction. If you got a drug addiction, you want to get back to it. That's the whole thing with addiction. And I think when you think about it, we don't have enough people to motivate folks, whether it's incarcerated or in the schools or just in general. We don't have people that are going to be, the E.T. Thomases of the world. You don't have the, what's his name, Tony Robbins, the Les Browns that are talking to the average person. And that's the kind of thing that you need, is to get people to believe in themselves, to know that they can be more than they are. We don't have enough of the Orlando Owenses out there saying, you know what, you can be more than what you currently are.
Oh, I don't know if I can handle another Orlando Owens.
I know it'd be something, but it'd be phenomenal though. I used to work for a company, American TV, back in the day, and I had this one dude, Orlando and I talked about him. And dear God, I wish I remember his name. But I used to work at the distribution center out in not Wauwatosa. It was beyond that. I can't even remember the location anymore. But it doesn't matter. What does matter is there was one guy I had working for me. He had been incarcerated for 20 years. He killed somebody. He was the best worker I ever had. I said jumped. He got everybody to say how high. Like, this dude was phenomenal. Why? He didn't want to go back. He wanted to be with his family, with his kids, with his wife. He wanted to be just the best that he could be at that particular point. And he knew he paid his debt, and he knew he had to work his way up from the ground up. And he did his damnedest to make it happen. The guy was phenomenal. I'll admit, I was skittish at first. Dude proved himself over and over. I can't say enough high things about him.
And Ed, tell me this: who you think that guy is going to vote for when he finally get his voting rights back, or who he would influence and say, "Hey, before you do that, let me tell you about this guy that I know who helped me." Now, in the end, he can't make anybody vote a certain way, but he definitely can say, "I don't know." Before you cast your vote for that guy blindly because he's just in that party, this dude over here, this dude helped me get a job. This dude right here called me in my darkest moments and maybe see what I stay, because no matter, and I support ET and all the motivational workers, and I support the compliment of Brother Paris. But at the same time, if we don't have anything lined up for these brothers and these men to come out and these women, they're going to go back. So if we can find that way, and these companies, and I'm not against nobody, but I'm just, immigration may be somewhat tricky. All I'm saying is this: that if we can help these young men get jobs coming out, the likelihood of them not reoffending again is highly, that's a good number.
Getting an opportunity to make their own way.
We got to control how we do child support. Got to look at how we do, restitution. Got to look a lot of these things. Like, again, transportation is an issue, but National Lock is never hiring, my friend. And so when Tom Baird and this Common Council wants to go ahead, and I'm not against having, safe communities, but I know safe communities with law enforcement is only a part of the answer. It is definitely not all of the answer. The biggest answer is opportunities to have these young brothers working if one gets a good paying job. But we have a Common Council that is ineffective. Then why isn't Master Lock hiring direct people on? Why isn't Harley Davidson hiring? Now, if you want to tell me there's a global macro, piece to it because of the business climate, I'm cool with that. But I can tell you, temp services, you can go to any temp service right now. They can get you in the Master Lock. They can get you into Harley. That's a problem, bro. It's a problem.
Yep. I think temp services are definitely predatory.
In a lot of ways. I mean, I worked for temp service when I was younger, and they paid my benefits and stuff like that. So that I had my benefits through the temp service, even though I was employed by Wisconsin Bell, back in the day. Yeah, now I'm dating myself. But and
what we're doing right here, these are good solutions. This is the agenda. This is what we need to be doing. And how do we grow those pockets? You got guys who are working in the union out in West Allis. What we're doing right now, Paris, this is the new Republican Party. This is the new groundwork we do. How do we start to pull more people into what we're trying to say, instead of trying to say, well, this is who we are, you got to accept it. But what we're doing right now, each time I talk to you guys, I think we start to build on an agenda, on a strategy. Like, how do we speak to people?
It's not only about how we speak to people, but the fact is we got to listen. I look back to the executive order that President Trump did on criminal justice reform, and it looks like I lost Orlando. I don't know. He's scrolling.
You're chopping in and out a little bit.
I'm chopping in and out. Okay. But having trouble connecting caused by unstable internet connection. All right. So
you're good now, though.
I'm good now. Okay. Oh, he's back. Okay, good. All right. But you look at that crime reform bill, criminal justice reform bill, or whatever that he had about, something as simple as removing chokeholds and stuff like that. But he spent those several hours with families who lost loved ones to police officers for whatever reason. And my understanding is he didn't even ask, was it justified? Was it not? He didn't care. He just wanted to listen to them.
Yeah.
And those of us as political people, we're political because we like to get involved in the process and whatever. And politicians also. Politicians could learn something from a Queens, New York loudmouth. Take the time to listen. Don't tell people what you're going to do. Ask them, what do they need you to do? what's important to them, and you're going to find there's a lot of commonalities across the lines and stuff like that. Safety, good schools. I think like in Milwaukee, MPS, we need people have got to stop putting band-aids in the issue. I like school choice. I agree with it. I think that getting kids out of bad schools is an awesome thing. But the problem is the bad schools are still bad schools.
Yep.
What can we do to fix those? And, whatever, you can argue that it's the union is powerful. It's the bureaucracy that they have in the school system. I mean, that goes beyond Act 10 and everything else. They just have, way too many buildings in one system. They need to break it up into multiple systems, whatever. I don't know what the answer is, but we got to start getting people young. That's also the other thing. I think there's a whole generation of kids that was neglected by the politicians who complained about the problem, but never solved the problem.
Let me ask you guys this problem. And I call it a problem because it's a problem that in our country,
about 10 more minutes, guys, just
Yes, sir. We're at the point now where things are so incredibly divided that it's almost at the point where we need to have an Article 5 Convention of the States and try to get a civil breakup of our union versus an all-out war.
Yeah.
So the question then becomes,
it'll never happen.
I do believe that it has to start at the local level. So at the local level, how do we bridge that gap in a time we are so divided between left and right?
We got to listen to each other. Yeah. We've got to listen. We've got to not be afraid to engage with our fellow citizen. They're not our enemy. And that's the whole point. The rank and file, Biden supporter and Trump supporter, we're not enemies. And I mean, it was very refreshing to see. There was somebody put up a video. It was made by somebody basically describing people that supported for Trump as basically needed to be rounded up and re-educated and deprogrammed and all that stuff. There was like a 10-minute video or whatever. And there were even people chiming in, hey, I'm a Biden supporter, and I go, do you realize the slippery slope you guys are going down? This is Gestapo tactics and stuff like that. So you're starting to get people seeing that.
Yeah.
There's what's that old cliche? Give the devil enough rope, he'll eventually hang himself. Maybe it's a good thing that the Democrats did win. The show is yours. You sink or swim. You've got power. The Republicans had power when Trump first won. He managed to get a lot of stuff done, even in spite of Paul Ryan, but he managed to do it. But, okay, put up or shut up. It's all yours. Let's see what's happening. Maybe we needed Tony Evers to remind us how much we hate Democrat policies, because we know they don't work. They need to see the policies work. But we also need somebody, and my biggest gripe with Scott Walker was he became unrelatable. People
checked out.
Yeah. I mean, Donald Trump is a boisterous millionaire, Queens, New York loudmouth, but he was still, for his supporters, relatable. He spoke their language. Yeah. And we need something like that. Tommy Thompson was like that. Tommy Thompson could speak the language. Tommy Thompson was brilliant. W2, great program. Republicans were always, we got to cut them off welfare, just cut them cold turkey, cut them. And the Democrats we need to give them more. And Tommy Thompson said, okay, we're going to give them time. We're going to wean them off. We got everybody addicted to the government tit. We got to wean them off. But in the meantime, they're empowered to learn a skill, and we're going to pay for it. They had those job centers and stuff like that. Unfortunately, the program is now gone, even after having a Republican. Well, we had Doyle and then Walker, and still nothing done with it. I mean, we had full Republican control for 8 years in this state, and there's still a whole lot of Wisconsin being a tax hell. We still have Common Core in the schools. we still, I mean, there's a whole lot of things that were failures. And I argue Act 10 is a failure.
At this point, yeah.
Yeah, it did its job about, cutting the knees off the union, but the spending is the same level it was when Scott Walker took over.
Yep.
From the day he started to the day he left, spending on schools didn't change. And we got nothing for all the additional spending. No accountability, no nothing. The schools, I mean, I live in Wauwatosa. We moved our family here because we wanted the good schools. You know what? I can't wait to get my 14-year-old out of Wauwatosa. It has gotten so bad. Yeah. Test scores are down. It's, a lot of issues. It's become, it's just way too woke. I believe schools should be nonpartisan.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, I'm not looking for a school to be conservative. I'm not looking for a school to be liberal. I'm looking for a school to teach my kid the skills they're going to need. Mm-hmm. I don't need them to know how to feel after, the difference between straight sex and gay sex or whatever. They don't need to know that. What they need to know is how to balance a damn checkbook and keep a job, and how to, learn skills programming or, whatever it is that they're going to do when they hopefully go to college or whatever. They need to learn how to survive. And they're not learning that in schools right now because everybody's so worried about, we got to be politically correct. And we got to, everybody's got to feel good and stuff like that. You know what? Life isn't fair. And, there's going to be people, I don't care. I know there's people that don't like me. I don't.
What are your pronouns, Orlando?
I don't know.
How do you identify?
How do you identify yourself?
Yeah. And we got to get off of this, that if somebody isn't in a certain demographic, if I'm not gay, I can't talk about gay issues. If I'm not black, I can't talk about black issues. If I'm not, white, I can't talk about white issues. We've got to still be able to have a conversation instead of
the divide is deep.
Instead of being, you had a girl that wore a kimono to prom.
Oh yeah.
And it was cultural appropriation. The Democrats went crazy on this girl. She was a teenage girl, and because she wore a kimono and she's not Asian. They should be honored. This is a symbol, very popular, whatever. And then the same people who called her for cultural appropriation, Nancy Pelosi and the like,
they're running around wearing kente cloths and stuff.
They're kneeling in the middle of the Capitol wearing a kente cloth. And what's the origin of the kente cloth, right? The slave traders.
Slave traders.
From Ghana, wasn't it? Yeah. So you're wearing a symbolic cloth that originated with the slavers, the people that were putting people in enslavement.
Was it just me, or when you look at that picture with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, the rest of them kneeling down like that with their kente cloths and stuff, didn't it look like a bunch of supervillains, like, kneeling down to like the major bad villain or something? Like it was like, and there was like one picture where they're all standing together at a podium. They're like this. I'm like, dude.
Where's the emperor coming up or what?
I'm just saying, where's Lex Luthor when you need him? Because this is the Legion of Doom. This is like,
all right,
comic book gold. I'm sorry, I just I diverted. My
Orlando,
bad.
Last word.
Hey man, we need to continue having these discussions. I hope you invite me on. I love the conversation. I think we need to be. We're at the building stage and the strategy stage. We don't have a lot of time, but I like coming on your show because of the topics, but also I like coming on your show because of the strategy that can be built from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it starts out small. Our whole nation started out small. A bunch of guys were in a tavern. It really was that simple.
It's kind of really, yeah.
And then
but a 20-year-old's getting hammered and stuff is like, oh, this is a good idea. Let's run with it.
but in the end, it was the American experiment is still huge. And you know what? And major leaders, even Dr. Martin Luther King and people like that, they all believe in the American idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a horrible past. There's some stuff in our past that's horrible. the idea of America is good because we've been a beacon of hope around. And I hate to use that as cliche and stuff like that, but it's true. All the good that the United States has done around the world. And we had our own problems. We were able to overcome things. Slavery was legal in this country once upon a time. And many people bound together fought and died so that slavery could end in this country. Was it perfect? No, but it took time, and it's still time. And it's we can overcome a lot. We can overcome Biden's folly. I'm not going to give up on this country.
Well, what was it that Dr. Martin Luther King said? Look at the content of the character, not the color of the skin. And there are people that will look at me in Orlando based on our color of our skin and F them, whatever. You do you, whatever. God bless you. I wish you well, but I'm going to do me and be the best that I can be. And if we look at each other for the content of our character, what we bring to the table, this is where one of the paths where it starts. And it's, I think, from that particular point that we start saying, okay, where do we get the people that have strayed? How do we bridge the gap between left and right? How do we move things forward? Because if we can't even accept those simple things, we're kind of doomed as a society.
Well, I did that the other day. I made an overture. I tried to be pragmatic.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Biden won. I'm not happy because there's a lot of questions about how he won. But you know what? The fact of the matter is, whether there were fraudulent votes, we'll never know because it never really got investigated. And there were Republicans standing in the way of that too. But okay. Either way, the Electoral College voted. All the legal process went through, and he won. Okay. I'm not thrilled with it. I think he's going to govern according to the people in the far left wing of his party because they're the power brokers right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I also kind of a challenge to Joe Biden. I said, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
I go, I'll gladly eat crow. And I hope crow tastes like chicken. I'd rather have him rise above it. And I'm not seeing it. It bothers me. He could be presidential right now by saying, Nancy Pelosi, stop this impeachment nonsense. It's bull crap. Trump's out. It's over. Let's move on. Move forward. He could rise above this, and he would gain support from a lot of people. I'd at least be willing to give the guy a chance if he showed some leadership like that. He talks about unifying us. Well, damn it, unify us. And I'm not saying that because they're going after my guy, but it's like none of this makes sense. You can't kick the guy out of office. That's what impeachment's for. It's like, what remedy can you hope to get from it?
My friend, I just say this. I'll leave you with this. It's a saying, and I don't know if Tip O'Neill said it. I know he's a Democrat, but no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I look forward to seeing your shows next month in February for Black History Month, and trying to just look at all the fibers and the uniqueness of our country, and try to bring in as many people as we can. So always a pleasure, my friend Paris, my friend Ed. I love you all, and we continue to work.
Gentlemen. Likewise. So we'll see you on again, and we'll have you guys on again, and then I have some other guests that I'll have it. Yeah. Okay. I get. Sorry. People are getting feisty on my boards again. Yes. Gutless turds and the legislature didn't stand up. They didn't stand up. That's the point.
Uh-huh.
It's the system we have right now. If they don't stand up, the system, and those of you on the left who say Trump was breaking laws, he utilized every legal option, everything that was done there by waiting it's all legal and constitutional. There's actually a process in the Constitution for this, for it to be challenged and all that. It's all constitutional. He didn't break any laws, but once again, they stacked the deck. It's not fair, but they stacked the deck.
And this is where we screwed up, because we knew this was coming, but we didn't do a damn thing about it.
And that's my issue with Robin Voss and stuff like that. We should have been fighting this fight last February.
Yep.
One thing you
Instead,
did say you said was very unique, Paris, and I think you may. I mean, I'm quite certain people said it before, but you said something just now. I don't want to start another discussion, but you said something was very poignant as far
yeah,
as
you do.
how our process works, which is that the electoral college voted. The popular vote is one thing, and if there were cheating and some inappropriate things happening with the popular vote, the electoral college voted. Now, typically, the electoral college does follow the popular vote, but we know that isn't always true. In fact, we had two Republicans in recent history that didn't get the popular vote, but they did get the electoral college. And you made
Sure.
a very, it was a great point you made. Like, man, the electoral college voted. They knew what they voted for, but if there was some fraudulent thing going on with the popular vote, the electoral college is a whole nother set of electors could do whatever they want to do. They voted for this dude.
And they failed to do it.
Yeah, some states are required, but not all states. But you know, it's the process. We don't elect the president by popular vote, and even so, yeah, there are questions. Did Joe Biden cheat? I don't know if he himself did, but I know the apparatus likely did. I think the conditions were there for them to cheat. I think, like in the state of Wisconsin, the state of Pennsylvania, the state of Michigan, all of them had laws to change elections put in place by the governor or non-elected bodies instead of the legislature. And the Constitution deliberately says legislature. But I cannot imagine, and I didn't think the Supreme Court ultimately would have thrown out the votes, because it would be, I mean, I couldn't imagine them throwing up votes, because that means one way or another, thousands and thousands of people would be disenfranchised. And that's kind of a difficult thing. It's just like the Republicans or the Trump supporters who got mad that Joe Biden did say, well, since I'm vice president, I'm not accepting those. I'm just going to declare Trump the winner. That's a dangerous precedent too. Al Gore could have done that back in 2000.
Yeah, but precedence has got to be set at some point, and I can certainly see where they might have done it. I think where the court would have ruled was, that, okay, you, the legislator, had the ability to do that constitutionally, but you acquiesced that power to your election commissions or whoever you gave it to. And I think that would have been the sticking point there. Ultimately, I think where the courts failed was they didn't give the right Republicans, the Trump campaign. You just said process. You didn't weigh it on the merit. If you had done that, a lot more people would have been accepting of what happened.
Right. But they didn't. Yeah, they didn't do it. But nonetheless, we were fighting this battle after the votes had been cast. The problem is the system is designed. Once those ballots are commingled and stuff like that, there's just no way to determine which ones are the bad ones. And that's the downside of a secret ballot. The fact of the matter is the Democrats used the process and they won because of it. So you know what? We got to stop bitching about the process. This is the hand we're dealt. We have to give into the process. They ballot harvest. Damn it. We need to ballot harvest. And we need to do it like an MF. We need to get out there and get our people to mail in ballots. You know what? Let's do it. Let's beat them at their own game.
Well,
they set the
Paris,
stage.
I know we had a lot of discussion.
Go ahead.
I know we had a lot of discussion about the Republican Party, but I just want to put out a shameless plug that next week we have our North Branch caucus, and there are a bunch of caucuses happening. And also in February, our county party will have its caucus. So hopefully you will be doing some reporting from resolutions and platforms. You can say, okay, I went and you heard. So you can give your listeners, and maybe there's some things that we can influence right now on where the platform should be. But I just want to give you and your listeners and your viewership that information, and hopefully you'll cover some of the caucuses.
Yep, and it's our chance to change some leadership too, and stuff like that, because it needs a new direction. Because we need to start pushing our leaders in Madison to do. If there's enough pressure, they'll do what we want them to do. I'm not saying that they can't have their own mind and think for themselves. And if they have a reason for voting for something or voting against something, I get that. What I'm saying is we want some people to actually stand up and fight. That's all we want.
Yep.
You can fight and lose. I'm tired of hearing the excuse, well, what, we're not going to bother because Tony Evers will veto it. Well, let him veto it. So what?
Mm-hmm.
I want to see that you're fighting the fight. And I think that's of anything that Donald Trump, out of all the things that he may have not been a perfect politician on, he wasn't polished and all that stuff. When he was presidential, he was very presidential. Look what happened today. You know, our troops are sitting in a freaking parking garage, and he opens up Trump Tower or the Trump Hotel, and he said the troops can come stay there. That was huge. You know, stuff like that. But President Trump fought. He had his back up against the wall his entire presidency, and he fought. For no other reason. He didn't have to do this. He wasn't collecting a salary. He didn't, you know, he fought for us, and we need more people to do that. And it's in the spirit of Martin Luther King. And I've said this quote before, but I'm going to, when President Trump said this at the Mount Rushmore speech, I love it. And it's appropriate because this is the week we celebrate Martin Luther King's birthday and stuff like that. And it says, we must demand that our children are taught once again to see America as did Reverend Martin Luther King when he said that the founders had signed a promissory note to every future generation. Dr. King saw that the mission of justice required us to fully embrace our founding ideals. These ideals are so important to us, the founding ideals. He called on his fellow citizens not to rip down their heritage, but to live up to their heritage.
There it is.
And I thought, and that's the whole thing. We got too many people willing to give up on the American dream. We got people on the left who want to cancel it. They want to cancel our heritage, our history. You know, we need to embrace it. We need to embrace the bad too and learn from it. And we got too many people on the right who are just plain giving up. Oh, America's done. They cheated. They won. Well, now we know what they're doing. So now we know how to beat them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
use the same playbook.
And I'll use the irony. The very first episode of The Apprentice, when Donald Trump had to show The Apprentice, his people that he had on his show, their job was to make lemonade.
I remember that.
The irony of it is, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Have an awesome night or morning.
1 a.m. and stuff. You know, Paris, I was just joking about doing like a live. I thought it was like 15 minutes of like, okay, 2.5 hours later.
You know what?
Damn.
I like good conversation. You know, you guys aren't real fun to look at, but you know, I prefer when Jackie's on the show or when Carolina's on the show and Stephanie's on the show.
As my friends say, have some Tito's. You look a lot better. Have some Tito's.
Tito, get me a tissue. All right. Well,
you are right.
Have an awesome night. We'll talk to you again. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, brother. You guys both take care. Have a phenomenal week.
All right. So they're signing off. Oops, there we go. And just want to wish everybody farewell. Happy Friday night. My next show will probably be Monday night at this point. And, you know, just stay strong out there. Keep your chin up. Things feel really weird. There's something, I don't know. I don't know what it is. It just, something doesn't sit right. We got to be vigilant, but we got to continue to fight because we can't let them take away our country, our way of life. We can't let communism creep in. And there's a good chance of it. Bigger chance now than ever. Because the true believers in the Democrat Party are there. And they're getting some help from some Republicans too, which is disappointing, to say the least. But nonetheless, I believe in America. We've survived a lot worse than this. We will survive. We will come through. We will prevail. I believe in the idea. And if you believe in the idea, it's bigger than whoever's ass is occupying that seat in the White House. So I wish you all a farewell, and I will talk to you guys soon. Good night. Bye.